think a lot of people often talk about lifespan, like when a lot of journalists talk to me about this, they want to know about immortality and how long a human's going to live. And, those things are interesting, but the thing that I care most about is the time spent free from cancer, free from dementia, free from heart disease, free from all of these diseases that we know are caused by the aging process.
It's scientist, writer, and presenter Andrew Steele. Andrew believes that aging should be targeted medically, and I met him in Berlin to find out why.
And I think if you look at all the different changes that are caused with age, there's this advantage that you're intervening before a disease process starts, and hopefully, therefore, it should be easier to solve than the sort of end-stage disease, often in a body that's suffering from all kinds of other problems at the same time.
Andrew says that the main goal of treating aging is to prevent the age-related diseases that we all dread, like Alzheimer's. But when most of us hear the terms longevity or aging therapies, we imagine something else entirely.
There are some people who are in this to be absolute immortalists. They want to live forever. They want to have their brains uploaded into computers. They want to tour the galaxy in some kind of, spaceships. And maybe that's an exciting future for them. But I think for most people, what they really want is this idea of health span. It's spending longer with your grandkids. It's living longer free from disease. It's being able to, carry on playing football into your 80s or 90s or even your 100s. And so I think it's important to distinguish those two things quite strongly, because actually, this isn't some weird mind-uploading, transhumanist thing necessarily. It can be. It could be part of a future like that. But it could also be part of a future where we just have far less dementia. And that sounds a lot less weird than, the idea of something like immortality.
Talking about dementia, I saw a close family member struggle with the condition for years. His doctors were helpless, only able to offer temporary fixes that just prolonged its misery. With so much research going on and so many people suffering, I just couldn't understand how come we haven't come up with better therapies by now.
I think the reason we haven't seen success given the investment so far in other diseases is twofold. The first is that actually we haven't spent that much money. It sounds like billions of dollars, but if you look around the world, the amount of money that we invest in research is very, very small compared to things in the rest of the economy. So for example, cancer research, the statistics I know for the UK, my home country, cancer kills about a third of people, and yet we spend £2.80 per person per year. That's about maybe $3.50 on public funded cancer research. And that's incredible for a disease that costs the economy, far, far greater amounts of money, hundreds of pounds, hundreds of dollars per person per year. So in that sense, I don't think we've really tried to cure those age-related diseases if you put it into some kind of context. The second problem is, I think, that going after these diseases is often much harder than going after the aging process will be. By understanding aging, we can potentially attack not just a disease like Alzheimer's, which we're currently having trouble with, but also all of these diseases at once, not just the cancer, not just the heart disease, not just the dementia, and even not just diseases. The frailty, the incontinence, even the wrinkles and grey hair, the sort of cosmetic signs of aging are all caused by the same underlying biology. And what that means is that by understanding and treating that biology, we can have a much broader effect than just going after one particular disease.
This paradigm shift that Andrew talks about has transformed my perspective. I now see dementia as a side effect more than as a problem to prioritize. My family member's suffering was rooted in a compromised physiology due to his age, and this made him vulnerable to various afflictions. This means that even if we could cure his dementia, another major disease would have emerged soon enough.
So, if you think about when politicians, Biden's just launched his cancer moonshot, and, these things are often inspired by a friend or a relative being affected by a particular disease. And very rarely do they have enough science background to sort of rewind the clock and realize, what caused that cancer. A lot of us are familiar with the idea of cancer being caused by smoking or cancer being caused by diet or whatever it might be. But we aren't so familiar with the idea that aging is the root cause of a lot of these diseases. I remember when I first met my wife, she's a doctor, and I started telling her about this aging longevity stuff. And she thought I was crazy. But actually, as she started working on more and more wards, she realized that almost all the patients, regardless of your medical specialty, are, they tend to be older people, whether it's whether they've broken their limbs, whether they've got cancer or whatever it might be. These things are strongly related to age.
Whether we are on board with treating aging medically, most of us believe that there are lifestyle choices that can help us age better, and some of us have become quite invested, both mentally and financially, in adopting these habits and trends. But how much control do we really have over the outcome? And might we be missing the point?
When I was writing my book, I was struggling with this, and I ended up sticking all the health advice in a chapter toward the end, because I think it shouldn't be the focus of what we're talking about here. In fact, I say that the single best piece of health advice is to promote aging biology, because you can exercise as much as you want, you can eat the best diet, you can not smoke, you can follow all the basic health advice that all of us know. And I guess the first thing to say is that actually is largely the extent of our health advice. There are a few sort of optimizing tweaks you can make, but most of what we know is fairly obvious, and therefore to some people, a little bit disappointing that we haven't got anything more exciting than that. But secondly, it's only going to get you so far. Even if you're absolutely perfect on all of those things, you can still get unlucky with something like cancer. And you're never going to, you can't diet and exercise your way to living into your hundreds feeling healthy. And so what we need to do really is increase the exposure of aging biology, because that is the thing that's really going to move the needle when it comes to how long and how healthy that we live.
Beyond the huge scientific challenges, the field's progress will be determined by factors such as funding and societal approval, which are, of course, linked. If things align in this way, the field could dramatically improve the lives of future generations, which is exciting. But is there a scenario where these therapies emerge soon enough to also offer some benefits in our lifetime?
These treatments are coming in the lifetimes of most people alive today. And what do I mean by that? Well, I don't want to bet on a particular horse and say this treatment's going to be first, but we've already got literally dozens of companies doing clinical trials on medicines that could affect longevity. So things like these senolytics, drugs that remove the age-related accumulation of these aged cells. We've got other drugs, repurposed drugs, things like rapamycin and metformin that are currently used for entirely different things in medicine, but seem to have some longevity effect. And we just need to try it out and find out if that actually works in humans. These things could be available in the next 5 to 10 years because the research is happening right now. And what that means is, well, let's imagine the average person on Earth is somewhere, I think they're about 35 years old. Maybe the average person in a rich country is about 40. That means, assuming life expectancy is even what it is today, you've got another 40 years ahead of you or something like that, which means that's an awfully long time for medicine to happen. Now, of course, none of this may come to pass. It might be that the whole of anti-aging biology turns out to be very, very difficult, much harder than we'd imagined. A lot of these therapies, they work in mice, but they don't work in people or something. We could get unlucky. But I think you'd be foolish to bet against the dozens of ideas that we have that could potentially, slow down the aging process and say that's not going to happen in the next 100 years. So as a result, I'm pretty excited that this could happen in our lifetimes. Obviously, there is a small chance it might not happen for much, much, much longer. But I think it's with enough funding, it could happen soon enough to matter for a lot of people.
My key takeaways. 1, it's probably not worth obsessing about health optimization beyond the common sense advice that Andrew mentioned. I would just add getting good sleep and regular preventative checkups, probably a good idea. 2, the primary and immediate mission of this field is to prevent the immense suffering caused by age-related diseases and to help us spend more of our given lifespan in good health. Any extra years that may be gained as a result are a bonus, not the goal. 3, longevity is relevant to every person on the planet because it responds to an increased medical and humanitarian crisis that touches us all. Finally, if this sparked your interest in the field, I highly recommend reading Andrew's book, Ageless, to find out more.